Hi, my name is Lisa Henninger, and I'm an Area Property Officer with GSA. I'm also a student in the Executive Leadership Program with Graduate School USA. One of the program requirements was completing executive interviews with leaders from all walks of life to learn about different leadership styles and skills that we want to develop in the future. The journey began with a site visit to one of our federal surplus donation customers, the Community Food Bank here in Fort Worth. During the visit, they shared their mission and passion for serving the community, as well as their affiliation with Ms. Opal Lee. I was so intrigued and inspired by the visit that I started doing my own research to learn more about the grandmother of Juneteenth. I learned that this was definitely someone I wanted to speak to about her leadership skills and how she led change. To reach out to the community bank to see if they could assist me with setting up an interview with Ms. Opal Lee. After waiting a little while and not receiving a response to my interview request, I decided to consider different options. Speaking with my supervisor, and he encouraged me just to show up to one of the Juneteenth events and maybe get the chance to speak to her. My natural instinct was absolutely not. No way. I'm not a risk taker and I'm not going to show up somewhere. But the more time that I thought about it, I started to consider, is it crazy or is it a little brave? So I reached out to my friend and we both signed up for the Opal Lee Freedom Walk in hopes that we could show up that day to participate in the celebration and perhaps get to meet Miss Opal Lee. When we arrived at the event, there was no way that we were going to get a chance to talk to her. Well deserving, the celebration was about her, and she was surrounded by a group of people and a team the entire time. We had so much fun participating in the walk and did our 2.5 miles in celebration of Juneteenth in the scorching hot Texas heat. Afterwards, we were able to hear Miss Opal talk and share about some of her plans for the future. After I returned home, later that week, I received the email from the Community Food Bank. It was Rudy to the rescue and was able to help accommodate setting up an interview with Ms. Opal Lee herself. I couldn't believe that I had the opportunity to speak with her, but it was all set up and I started preparing. I watched interviews that she'd been on and really researched her as a person because I wanted to have my questions be really valuable and reflective so that I can learn the most about her experiences. I was really nervous, a little scared, but mostly excited. But everything went so well and I'm so glad to share it with you. I work with GSA, and I'm also a student for the Executive Leadership Program at Graduate School USA. So as part of the program, we interview leaders to learn different leadership styles and skills so that we can kind of, take from their experience into our own leadership style. And it's been quite the journey.
I bet.
And it all first started with a visit to the Community Food Bank.
Really?
Yeah, they're one of our customers in our donation program, and they were kind enough to host a visit.
Oh, right.
And of course, they were so enthusiastic and excited about the work that they could do thanks to the program that they also mentioned their affiliation with you. You have many titles. You have doctor, you have children's author, activist, but as you've affectionately mentioned, your favorite title is being everyone's grandmother.
That's true.
So what are some of your favorite things about being a grandmother versus just being looked at as simply a leader?
Well, as a grandma, you get to love on the kids, and then you can send them home. I've taken on this role for everybody I meet. So I'm your grandma by another mother.
I love it. I love it. And we're going to kind of go back a little bit to when you were an educator at the Amanda McCoy Elementary School. So what was one of your favorite memories from teaching third grade?
I taught third grade so long that I was beginning to act like those 8-year-olds. So they gave me another position. I ended up being the visiting teacher to see if the kids were in school, buy them shoes or clothes if they didn't have food or a place to stay, that sort of thing. So it was rewarding. And I liked third grade and 8-year-olds. You see, they hadn't matured enough to think they were grown, you know. They were still cuddly and they loved their teacher and she loved them. And they were good learners too. They really were.
Back to the community food bank, when we went there, they were so passionate and caring about, the work they did in the community. And I wanted to know what kind of started your guys' relationship together and how you got, working with them, especially during a time where they were struggling to stay open.
I was associated with a food bank on the south side where I would go and take boxes of food to people who were bedridden or in wheelchairs or couldn't stand in the lines. And that food bank burned. Well, here's this huge facility behind my house, and it was up for sale. And I asked about it, and they leased it to a tiny little group of us for $4,000 a month, and I nearly had a hemorrhage. How we gonna get it at $4,000? But we actually paid it for 11 months. And the month we didn't have the money, the owners came to us and said, we realize you're doing a good work in the neighborhood. We know you're feeding something like 500 families a day. And so we're going to give it to you. And they gave us that one point. I don't know how many $1 million it was. I was delighted. I really was. And so it's thrived. I'm retired from it, but I still take boxes from the food bank to the people who can't get there themselves.
Your vision of Juneteenth becoming a federal holiday, how did you foster this vision in others to get their support and understanding about why it was so important?
Well, you'd have to know about the two people that I was associated with. There was Mrs. Rolla. The city of Fort Worth had asked her to document the contributions blacks had made to the growth of Fort Worth. But she could find absolutely nothing written. Nothing. So she started the Tarrant County Black Historical and Genealogical Society. I'm one of its members. Juneteenth is one of its programs. Besides Miss Rolla, I met Dr. Ronald Myers. He was a medical doctor, he was a minister, and a jazz musician all rolled into one. And Doc is responsible for 42 of the 50 states having some kind of Juneteenth commemoration or celebration, you know. And I think maybe he's looking down from heaven now saying it's about cotton picking time. You got it done.
Well, how did you approach when people had different viewpoints or were resistant to the Juneteenth movement?
To tell you the truth, I didn't run into many of those kinds of people. I talked to some folk and they helped me make up my mind that if I walked from Fort Worth to Washington, D.C., 1,400 miles, that people would take notice and perhaps we could get some things done. And so, if I started September 2016, I actually got to Washington January 2017. And we had asked President Obama to walk with us from the Frederick Douglass House to the Capitol. But he was in Chicago. I didn't get what I wanted. But if you've heard of P. Diddy, helped us get 1,500,000 signatures to take to Congress. And we were prepared to take that many more when we got the call to go to the White House to see the bill being written into law. And I tell you, I was a happy camper. I was so excited. I wanted to do a holy dance, but the kids say when I try that, I'm twerking.
Well, I know that the journey had its challenges as well. Were there ever times that you felt like giving up, and what gave you the strength and courage to keep pushing forward?
The people I met, the people who helped. I had one man that I tried to hand a flyer to, and he wouldn't take it. And I decided he was late for work. He didn't have time to fool with me that morning. But everybody was so nice. I started walking from here to Arlington, Grand Prairie, Dallas, Joppa, Box Spring, and my team said, "You won't be doing it that way," because somebody had promised us an RV, and they decided what I was doing was too political, so they changed their mind and kept their old RV. But I had absolutely no trouble. If I went from, it was Shreveport. From Marshall, somebody took me to Shreveport. Somebody from Shreveport took me to Texarkana, and they took me to Little. I didn't have any problem getting around, and everybody was so nice. And if they didn't put me up in hotels, they let me stay at the house. I don't know how many pounds I gained because they fed me. The people were so nice and so receptive to the idea that it needed to be done. We needed Juneteenth for a national holiday. Thank you, but you got to hear this.
Oh, yeah.
I used to be on the board of Habitat for Humanity, and my family's house was destroyed back in the 30s, and I always wanted to know who owned the lot. And I found out that Habitat did, so I asked to buy it. They wouldn't sell it to me, they gave it to me.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to put a house on it for sale.
Oh my gosh, that
They
is so
brought me
wonderful.
plans for a house they want to build for me.
Oh my goodness.
So I tell everybody all I'm taking from here is my toothbrush.
I love it.
I'm going to leave everything in.
You've been pretty open about sharing how when you were 12 years old, your family's house was vandalized and burned down on Juneteenth. How did you go from something that was a tragedy to being something that was a triumph of celebrating Juneteenth, looking back or celebrating it as a holiday instead of looking back at it as a painful memory?
I don't know whether it just got buried in my psyche or what, because our parents never discussed it with us. And I think maybe Bud Kennedy or somebody from the Star Telegram found it in the paper, and began to ask about it. I'm from a family that when it's a tragedy in the family, and we've had some, that prayer is where you got to go. You've got to pray. You've got to be able to talk to God about it. And he always seems to find a way of getting you over the hump.
Well, one of my favorite quotes from you is, if you can teach people to hate, then you can teach people to love.
And that's a fact. There's so many people that we know who aren't on the same page we're on. They don't share our views, and they can be changed. That's not going to be a day. You're going to have to work at it. But people's minds can be changed. And I just think if we carried 1,400,000 signatures to Congress and we were prepared to take that many more, don't you know if 30 million people are on the same page, we could turn this country around. And it needs turning. This homelessness that needs to be attended to, and joblessness, health care that some of us can get and others can't. Climate change that we are responsible for. And I keep telling people, we don't do something about climate change, we go all go to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah.
And we can do something about it. We can, if only we would.
We were actually able to participate in the Opal Walk of Freedom this year.
Yes.
So we were doing that 2.5-mile walk in that scorching Texas heat that day, right? And we just had a great time. It was such a wonderful experience. And we
Weren't
got
there so many people?
I know.
I had no idea that many people would be there. That they even cared. But I'm delighted.
Yes.
I am, and I keep saying I'm going to keep on walking and talking, and maybe some more people will listen.
We were really excited to hear you speak afterwards and announce about the approval for the National Juneteenth Museum. So moving forward, what are your hopes for the museum and incorporating Juneteenth education into our schools?
Well, I'm hoping that all of the states will have material, that will go in the museum. I'm hoping that it will be as fabulous as the Smithsonian.
Oh, yes, I can
think
see
that
it.
one is, as the young people say, off the chain. We're gearing up, I have a birthday in October, and so they're going to turn the spade dirt there. Let me show you what I've got.
Oh, wow.
Here.
Oh, my goodness.
Those are the porches of shotgun houses that we lived in.
Oh, my goodness.
Isn't that something? And there's going to be an incubator for small businesses and a theater and the museum. And I am telling you, I can hardly wait.
Well, throughout your journey, what leadership qualities do you think that you've developed that really helped you be successful in life?
Ooh, I don't have the slightest idea to say that if you start something, you got to finish it. I learned that from my grandparents and my mom. I don't care what it is and how many obstacles are in the way. You got to finish it, come hell or high water. And so I tell young people, because you have a setback of one kind or another, don't give up on what you feel is right, what you feel you ought to share with others. Just don't give up on it. You might have to take a detour too, but don't give up.
When you received the news that you were a Nobel Peace Prize nominee, going from being a single working mom trying to get by to then being the 2022 nominee, how did you feel in that moment?
I felt blessed. I felt like the Lord was in my corner. Can I say it like that? That He had helped me so much through so many things. I'm wanting to share with young people. If you got it, and it's something that you can share, and it's going to be good for your family, for your friends, for your community, don't give it up. Don't give up or give out. And if I can get that message over to some others, I'm going to keep trying.
Well, what other advice would you have for aspiring, young leaders like ourselves trying to make a difference in our community? Where should we start?
Well, you need allies. You need to align yourself with somebody who's in the same field you're in, and see if you can't glean from them things to help you. You don't have to make the same mistakes they made. Listen to what they have to say and guide what you do by what they've told you. That shortens your journey when you found out from somebody else what works better than what the textbook is saying. There's valuable information that you can get from others and study like there's no tomorrow. I'm not telling boys and girls not to date, but don't make that the prime thing. You know, get your education first. I want the young people to stay focused. You can have fun, but stay focused.
Well, lastly, I wanted to, the famous Opal Lee of, none of us are free until we are all free.
And we aren't free yet.
Yeah. In the future of change, what freedoms do you hope to see progress?
I'm hoping, I'm just so hoping that we will realize that we are one people. You know, African Americans, we are Americans. Mexican Americans, we're Americans. Asian Americans, all of us are American. And the sooner we decide that we're all in the same boat, the better off we're going to be. I'm so thankful for all the folk that helped me. I don't know what to do. I don't want anybody to think this was a one-woman thing, because it was not. Oh, always. My family supported me, my church supported me, the little organizations I was in, all of them supported what I was doing. I know people thought I was off my rocker,